Hello and welcome back to the Mafia Scum Modern Super League. I'm Hascow here with my co-commentator for this match, LLD. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
We have one match today, and it's going to be Yaw versus Klazam. We've seen both of these decks already in this tournament, but let's take a quick look at them before going into the matchup. First, Klazam is on Gift Shift. LLD, can you give a brief overview of this deck again?
Yeah. So just like last time, Gift Shift is a Skip Shift deck that's running four copies um, of gifts because he's looking to be able to set up things with Graveyard Recursion with let's see this, Noxious Revival, and in the most part, he's just looking to be able to speed up his Scape Shift victory. Beyond that, he doesn't have any other win conditions, but he has plenty of removal and counter spells in his main deck and in his sideboard to be able to deal with most opponents. Klazam, as far as I know, is 2-0 so far. He's been on a pretty good run. And his sideboard is full of just about like every card you can think. I mean, beyond there being two copies of Anchor of the Gods, I believe, in here, and two copies of Huntmaster of the Fells, uh, I'm pretty sure that he's got just 1 ounce, and I mean, he's got something for everything. For early decks, he's got Anger of the Gods. For more controlling decks, he's got Negate and Dispel. For more aggressive decks that sort of look to burn him out, he's got Pulse and Arasa. He's got Shadowstone for artifact decks. But what's really interesting is that Yaw is not running any of these. He's running a deck that's much more aimed towards a couple of strong mid-range creatures that are hard to remove. Mainly Thing in the Ice in this case, which is going to be difficult for Klazam to deal with because most of his removal is based on damage. He doesn't have a whole lot of destroy target creatures type effects. He can repeal, but I don't remember what the mana cost of the Thing Under the Ice actually is. Do you remember, Cal?
So Thing in the Ice is one and a blue, so it's
Yeah.
two converted mana cost.
So
And
what,
with the recent change during Shadows over Innistrad, it's converted mana cost 2 on both sides.
is it really? Okay. So then, I mean, repeal's actually a decent answer, but I mean, he only has two of those in his deck and doesn't have any in his sideboard, so he's going to be digging for that. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot that's going to be done. Even on its flip side, 4 damage is not something he has in ready amounts. Lightning Bolt does 3, Is It Charm does 2. Uh, so he's going to be looking for ways to bounce it back to hand or to remand it. And so I don't know. I mean, with this matchup, Yaw is going to be most of his removal stuff is going to be dead as well because I mean, there's not a whole lot that Kazan's going to clean out in terms of creature threats. Uh, with that said, though, his counterspell suite is going to be very, very useful. Logic Knot, Mana Leak, Spell Snare, Cryptic Command. These are all very good spells. We'll have to see what he does in the sideboard because it'll be very important to see what he does. But I think that Boom and Bust might come in, and I think that might be a big player.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens both pre and post sideboard. Klazam only has a few actual win conditions pre-board, and if Yaw can keep his counter magic for the cards that actually matter, it's going to be tough for Klazam to get a win actually to hit the table.
Yeah, and post board. I mean, we can talk more about post board in a while, but I mean, Boom Bust is. I mean, it might be. I don't know. The issue is it could be a little bit slow, but if he ever gets to 6 mana and can just cast Bust, it's so dangerous.
Yeah, it's basically impossible once 5 or 6 lands are destroyed for Klazam for him to actually have the ability to win at that point. At least if he's going for the gifts win.
Mm. Well, I mean, even if he's going for escape shift victory, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, that's his only victory, right? Like, he doesn't have any other ways to win, as far I can tell. Well, post-board, he can have Inferno Titan kind of do things, but...
Yeah, I think that's pretty likely to come in this matchup, the creature half of the sideboard.
So we'll see what Yaw does in that case, because he knows what... The players know each other's decks, so it'll be questionable whether in game two,
Super weak.
Yaw decides
I'm happy.
to keep his creature removal in his board, or whether he decides to take it all out in favor of preventing Scape Shift. Because a lot of the creature removal will be useful against things like P and Kieran and Tireless Tracker and Inferno Titan and Huntmaster of the Fells. So it'll be questionable whether Yaw predicts that or not. But I think game one, I think Yaw might have an advantage. I think that if Yaw can get off enough of his early things, like a thing in the ice down on turn 2, or Kalitas, or a P and Kieran down on curve, and have mana to hold up to be able to protect them, then I think he'll win. I think he'll just be able to outpace Klazam. But if he can't, then that's going to be a big issue. So I think Klazam will have the inevitability in this matchup. I think that no matter what Yaw does, Klazam in match one at least will be able to scape shift eventually. It's just a question of will he be alive at that point.
Correct. And it'll be interesting to see the flow of the game to that point, because Yaw's going to need the counter spells if Klazam finds a scape shift, and if he doesn't and just has a bunch of threats, then it's going to be hard for him to stay alive, because he does hurt himself a lot with his mana base.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Here's the interesting part. Because Eternal Witness and Snapcaster Mage and Sacrotrap, I mean, Sacrotrap Elder is mostly going to get sacrificed for like things, but I mean, Snapcaster and Eternal Witness might be worth it. But if you have a Lightning Bolt in your hand turn 1, there's no other 1-drops in his deck. Thing of the Ice, Snapcaster, Pinkier, and Kalitas all cost more than 1. If you drop a dual land or even a mountain turn 1 and EOT on your opponent's turn, you have Lightning Bolt in hand. The question is, do you just cast it? Like just cast it at his face, because there's not a whole lot in this matchup that Lightning Bolt's removing.
Yeah, it does work very well as just some additional damage to lower the clock and try to mine
because
somewhat.
if you can put Thing in the Ice at 1 attack as opposed to Thing in the Ice at 2 attacks, that significantly lowers Klazam's time to be able to find the repeal answer or the cryptic command answer to be able to deal with it, you know?
Indeed.
It also means that P and Kieran is a much bigger threat, because that kind of chip damage is now coming in much more readily.
Absolutely. I think we can go down to the game for now, and see how this all actually plays out.
Right. So the it looks like Klazam has won the dice roll, and Klazam has chosen to play game 1. Klazam has mulliganed, and as has Yaw. So they both mulliganed.
Yeah, neither of these hands looks like it does anything.
Yeah, they both chosen mulligan, but they said they were going to wait for casters. So here we are. I mean, no lands in hand in the first hand here for Yaw is just not playable. Didn't get to see what Klazam's hand looked like, but it was pretty bad as far as he was saying. And Klazam mulliganed a second time. Not surprised he had no lands in that hand either. Or he had 1 land rather. Both players mulliganed down to 5. Holy hell.
Yes, but both of these hands look not unreasonable.
Yeah. No, this looks much better. It means that Yaw's going to be able to suspend an Ancestral Vision which I think is much better than casting Serum Visions turn one. I think I think just getting that Ancestral Visions down early will be able to be useful. Uh, though, mind you, if he's searching for a land, it might be worth getting this early scry.
Agreed. I think.
Though, to be fair, I mean, he can draw the extra card on the next turn when he untaps, too. So I think it might be worth just having the extra suspend counter off. Because he needs every turn, right? Like, that one turn might be the difference between the turn you get scape shift and the turn you don't, and, drawing those cards, right?
Agreed. And having those cards early means more chance to answer the big threats of Scape Shift and Gifts.
Klazam playing out of Mystery Forest and passing turn, not surprising. Klazam's hand it consists of another forest and some Cryptcaster. That's exactly what it is. Cryptic Command and Snapcaster. And looks like Yaw is going to do exactly what we expected and is going to suspend Ancestral Vision.
Yes. Get that out there early. You only need the land next turn anyway, so might as well wait on the Serum Visions, try to find it there, as well as your additional draw step.
Yeah. He's going to get 2 draws plus plus to be able to scry twice afterwards. I mean, it's not guaranteed to get him a land, but it should get him a second land by turn 3 at least, which is, good enough.
Yeah, he just needs to find those lands and get going on his plan.
Yaw draws a second Terminate. That's going to be dead in this matchup. This is not good.
Yeah, he has 2 cards that don't really do much of anything. He needs to find threats, he needs to find counter spells, he needs to find something.
Oh, well. And there's a Mana Leak, which is a very, very, very good card for him in this matchup, but it's not useful right now. What's going on?
Looks like we're just saving some time while Yaw is scrying to find the land and play Snapcaster. And
What exactly? He's not snapping anything back. He's just flashing Snapcaster for damage?
I assume so. Guess he thinks he needs to
Protection?
need some protection, needs to start attacking. With Yaw missing a land drop, he probably thinks he can start getting some damage in right now.
On the other hand, Yaw did scry and put 1 on top, which means that Yaw should have a land next turn.
Yeah, that's almost definitely a land.
Klazam plays his 3rd land and is attacking a Snapcaster, not surprising. Yaw's hand is, Klazam's hand is not looking very strong. Lightning Bolt, Cryptic Command, and Scape Shift. If Klazam doesn't find a 4th land here, he'll be in serious trouble. He doesn't have any of his ability to search for stuff. He can't cast any of his other stuff. I mean, all he can do is cast Lightning Bolt right now. It's not particularly good for either player, which is not surprising. They both mulligan to that.
Correct.
Here is Yaw's draw. We'll see what he does. And he found a Creeping Tar Pit on top. That's interesting because it means it's not going to be able to be casting anything this turn, but that's not terrible either. We'll probably see. It'll be questionable whether we see in end of turn or during combat step Lightning Bolt the Snapcaster, or whether we'll see Lightning Bolt face. I'm not sure which one's correct in this matchup right now. I mean, the Snapcaster is technically holding back a potential creature attacking threat, but you have 2 Terminates in hand, and no creatures on board right now.
Well, additionally, the Snapcaster's already done its job. Yaw's at 18. The basic Scape Shift for 7, that's all it needs to do. So
Wow. And a second Lightning Bolt drawn for Klazam, which is pretty insane. And here's Yaw, and the turn, he's going to lightning bolt the Snapcaster. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I just don't know if I agree with that decision.
Well, if you're going to do it there, I'm a little confused why you wouldn't do it before you take the damage from it.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, maybe he was concerned about, like, pump effects and stuff like that, but this isn't a deck that has any pump effects, so I don't particularly know why. In fact, beyond a counterspell, this deck has no real way to play around it, and they can counterspell it just as well at the end of turn, so I don't particularly know what he was thinking there. There is the fourth land for Klazam.
But it's not a blue land, so all he has is Scapeshift available.
Steam Vents, and he has two Steam Vents on board, though.
He does.
Four Snowthrower, four Steam Vents, Steam Vents. He should be able to cast Cryptic. No, the Cryptic is 3 blue, right? Oh, and he's locked out. Wow. And here we go. Yaw's gonna go off.
This should get him well back into the game, assuming he finds any sort of threats.
He drew PN Kieran, Fatal Push, and Snapcaster Mage.
Not actually cards that seem that useful in the matchup.
And then drew Blood Crypt for a turn. That's really good. He found a land. He already has another one there as well, but he found himself a pretty good dual land here. If I'm being honest, this actually isn't that terrible. Because you can play a land and Snapcaster. You can Snapcaster back. Like Serum Visions or something like that.
Or Lightning Bolt or Thought Scour at the end of turn if you want to hold up Mana Leak.
That's true. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, he has 2 lands right now, so it's not particularly a big rush, but that's an interesting play, because I guess he's just willing to take the 2 damage from Blood Crypt always, but if he's just going to EOT, he actually really wants to hold up 3 mana instead of 2. And he discards a Terminate. That's reasonable.
Yeah, that's not doing anything.
Ram has drawn a Remand.
That'll get him a card deeper to try to find another land, but with all the cards Yaw's drawing, it's probably not very helpful in the long run. He doesn't have any scape shifts or gifts to protect right now.
Here comes end of turn Snapcaster. And that will be remanded.
Not very surprising. He wants to get a little deeper into his deck and stave off whatever Snapcaster was going to do. Probably the Thought Scour or possibly Lightning Bolt to
He's found a copy of Repeal. That's not particularly useful right now, but it could be useful in the future. Pump that Cryptic Command. I don't know about Yaw here, but I would just play up here in Kieran.
Yeah, you just saw a remand on your Snapcaster.
There it is. P and Kieran put 2 colors, 1/1 top to artifacts. These should be decent threats to be able to help take care of Klazam just hanging around. Klazam now has a decent clock.
We may see right here, it looks like going to be a repeal on one of the Thopters to draw a card and get rid of one of the threats.
That seems reasonable. And he's drawn a Gifts Ungiven.
He's probably going to want to cast that on his turn while Yaw's tapped out.
Yeah. We probably want to try and get a couple lands too. There's Lightning Bolt number 3 for Klazam. No land, draw here. Do you think he just gifts for 4 lands?
I would probably gifts for 4 lands. Try to get a red one so you can bolt the PN Kieran.
Yeah, look for the red-blue ones.
He seems to be thinking here probably about whether he wants to gifts. Yep, that looks like what this is. We probably see 4 lands here, likely a couple fetches, maybe an island and a snow-covered island, trying to get the extra blue. Breeding pool, that's a good choice as well.
He's trying to get that third blue for Cryptic Command. And there's Flooded Strand.
Yeah, if Yaw gives him the island and the breeding pool, that means no bolt on the PN Kieran this turn. But he's going to get blue regardless.
Which is fine, I think.
Yeah, the blue's not doing much of anything on its own right here.
And Yaw has to know that he has 4 Lightning Bolts in his deck, so.
Yeah, you're not going to keep him.
You can't give him either fetch. Letting him fetch for letting him fetch for a Shockland. Really? I think that's a mistake.
It is questionable since that gives him more access to more possible colors. I guess he assumes that the damage is going to be more of a problem than the lack of color choice.
I mean, it's true that if he wants to go get any red, he has to get a Shockland and bring himself down to 3, which he's going to do right now. He's going to bring himself down to 14, but Yaw has no other threats in hand. I don't understand this at all.
Yeah, it's not looking good for the PN Kieran to stay alive. I guess Yaw's going to hope that his Snapcasters do the trick over several turns here, but 2 damage a turn is not that much.
I think that was big air. I don't know why he decided to do that. I mean, you have to. You can't give him fetch lands. Not like that. Another ancestral vision.
That one may not stick around long enough to actually resolve, though.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he doesn't have any lands. That's the big issue. He doesn't have enough mana to be able to hold to Snapcaster and hold up like Mana Leak. He's just gonna put out Ancestral Visions and hold up Mana Leak. That's okay, I guess.
That's about all he can do unless he wanted to hold up Snapcaster for Thought Scour or something. But I guess he can Snapcaster for Lightning Bolt while holding up Mana Leak for a threat card.
Yeah, he can also Snapcaster for Thought Scour, I suppose it's true, but
he can't anymore. He only has 2 blue total, and he's used one of it.
oh wow, he did. Jesus, it means he couldn't even hold up Cryptic either. It's He needs to find some lands.
Particularly a blue land would be very valuable here.
There's Valakut in the hand of Klazam. That's one of his two Valakuts. That's essentially a dead draw for Klazam.
And now Klazam's holding up a cryptic for whatever Yaw does that's scary, like this Snapcaster Mage. Looks like Klazam wants to check Yaw's graveyard before deciding if he wants to let this resolve or not. Only things he can snap back here are Lightning Bolt.
And what it also does is it puts an extra 2 damage on board.
Yeah, that's... It adds up, eventually, with Klazam at 10 right now. But 3 damage from Snapcaster Thopter isn't going to do all that much. And with a Cryptic Command in hand, not a Cryptic Command, a Scapeshift in hand for next turn, that's probably going to be enough.
If he Scapeshifts next turn, he loses. He's Yaw's got Mana Leak in hand.
Yeah, that's the problem. But
I mean, he only has 6 lands. I mean, if he finds the 7th land, it's a big deal. And he does have Valakut, but Valakut had just tapped.
yeah, but he can just play it and then sack the other 6 lands for mountains.
Yeah, but I'm saying that it can be countered as a thing.
Yeah, that's the problem here. But that's probably what he's thinking about, at least.
Yeah. Yaw has to hold up Mana Leak here, or it's over.
Yeah. I mean, he knows that going from 6 lands to 7 is the breaking point in a Scapeshift deck like this.
Any other passes. It helps that Kolaghan's command is also an instant, so he's holding enough.
Yep.
Klazam's going to cast in his end of turn a Cryptic.
Trying to bait out a Mana Leak, I guess.
Oh, God. He has to know he can't.
Oh, he's trying to bounce the Tar Pit to slow him down a little bit.
He has to know that if... Yeah, he has to know that this is, like, a thing that prevented damage on boards. Like, the circumstances of this read heavily that Klazam's looking to try and bait out something.
Yeah. He's also probably looking to draw an answer like a Remand or an Is It Charm to protect his Scapeshift.
Oh, come on, yeah, you can't. You gotta think about this, man. You know the land's in hand anyway. You're not getting very much anywhere. You know the threats. You're still able to hold up Kolaghan's, even with this play.
Is there a thought to just using that mana to play a Snapcaster Mage, just to have another thing on board?
That's potential. I don't hate that play. But what it does, it means he can't hold up Kolaghan. and that's part of why Yaw passed turn. Because if his opponent does nothing, he's gonna want to Colligans to fucking uh, return P and Karen and deal 2 damage to him.
Yeah.
Which would put him at 5, and then that puts him at an effective 2, which means which means a snapcaster into Colligans or another lightning bolt or anything like that will kill his opponent, which is what he's hoping for. But in either case, you can still hold everything up even with this bounce. God, yeah. He's gonna manually get in that game.
Yeah.
And it's a bad choice.
I guess he's hoping that Klazam doesn't have the land in hand that he needs, but we see that there's a Valakut in there.
I mean, there's a there is a amount of there's only so much that you can assume your opponent doesn't have something, and in most cases, you have to assume they don't have things when you're playing only to your outs. But Kazam's outs here were very small, and Yaw's outs were huge. Kazam had no board control, was dying in like 2 turns, and you had a counterspell in hand for Scape Shift on the opposing turn. The fact of the matter is that well, he's just dead here, but we'll see if Kazam spots it.
He is holding a mana for another mana leak, but we know he doesn't have it. It depends on how scared Klazam is of it.
Because it is his only copy of Scape Shift. He's moving Valak at the table. This should be Kazam playing it then. I mean, that's the other thing. If he Scape Shifts poorly here, then it might just be over.
He's probably counting up to make sure this works the way he wants. He's just passing. That pass may just kill him here, although he does have 2 lightning bolts for a bunch of threats. Is he trying to find a second Scape Shift here? Probably. But even if he is, there's no way he's going to get to cast it before he dies.
Cal, are you here?
Yeah. What's wrong?
Okay. You've been silent for the last 3 minutes, and like, were you muted or something?
I didn't think so.
Hmm. Like, were you saying anything, or
I thought I was saying something. It's possible that.
no? You haven't been saying anything for the last 3 minutes or so. At least on my end. That's fine.
Okay. So what is this gift actually going to get?
He's looking for answers to the board. Obviously, he's gonna get Noxious Revival. Is it Charm? I mean, actually, is it Charm doesn't do anything. Is the issue because if his opponent, assuming his opponent has a Mana Leak in hand or another counter spell or something in hand, those mostly will cost 2 mana, and so I'm not sure if the two mana counter spell from Is It Charm is gonna do anything. Remand is a big card. That's got to go to the graveyard for y'all. Actually, y'all's got lethal on board here.
He think Yeah, he sees lethal on board, but with two lightning bolts in hand,
Yeah.
Klazam has answers to multiple threats here.
Yeah, but I'm talking from y'all's perspective. Like, he only needs 3 of that damage to go through, which we know probably won't happen, but.
Well, he needs 4 of it to go through because Kolagon's command only does 2.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought it was at 5, not 6. Hmm. I think you put Noxious Revival and Remand in the graveyard, but that's just me.
The problem with Noxious Revival for Klazam is that he's at 6 and has 2 green mana right now.
But Noxious Revival lets him get back anything. And he's already cast a Cryptic, a bunch of gifts. I mean, your hand cannot currently deal with another Cryptic. If you get Cryptic again, it's game over. Because if he bounces your Tar Pit, it's just over.
Yeah, but we are passing back to Yaw's turn here, so he just has to protect and get 4 damage in, and then the Noxious Revival can't be cast along with the Scape Shift.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're giving him Noxious Revival and, let's say, I mean, you can't give him a Rand here. I mean, you just can't. So let's say you're giving him, what, Noxious Revival and, Is It Charm, I suppose?
Yeah, if you give him Noxious Revival and Is It Charm, the Revival
We know that's a
pinches him on green.
we know that's a lose the issue. And we know that it's not going to be a good scenario for. I mean, yeah, what are you talking about? Noxious Revival can just be cast with the. Yeah, but he only has 2 green for Escape Shift.
Yeah, and that's the problem here.
I don't know. I mean, if I were y'all personally, I would hand my opponent Lightning Bolt and Is It Charm. Wow. I think that's strictly wrong, but we'll see how it plays out.
I think he's just trying to protect his threats right now. If he can get the Snapcasters in, then he has a Kolagon's command in hand. But the bolts are just getting cast right now.
Yeah. Well, his opponent's tapped out. Unfortunately for him, that's gonna leave him tapped out.
He has to use all his mana to activate the
Y'all dropped the lightning
tournament.
bolt. This game's over. No, wait, no, you need another land. Shit. Because I was looking at Creeping Target, and that's 4 damage right there. I'm not entirely sure why there was both cast right then. And there's the lightning bolt. Oh my god. Actually, isn't that just over? 3 plus 2 plus 1? Yeah, game's over. That's what I thought. He has
Assuming
enough mana
that
for that, right?
Klazam uses the Noxious Revival.
No. It's 1 plus
Oh, yep, 1 plus 2 plus 3.
2 from Colgan's. That's 6. Game
Yep.
over. Just show him the lightning bolt. There's no. I know you're supposed to play it, but just show him the lightning bolt. And there it is.
Yep. A lot of different choices there throughout that entire game. Lots of different things that could have been done at different points that might have seen a different outcome here, but looks like Klazam was a little scared of a counterspell from Yaw, a second one after the mana leak was used on the Cryptic.
I probably shouldn't have told Klazam, but he can always look at the stream, and it's between games, so it doesn't really matter.
Alright, let's look at sideboards and see what we expect people to bring in here.
Well, on the side of Yaw, the lightning bolts should stay in, but Fatal Push, Terminate need to get out, just straight up.
The Fatal Pushes definitely need to go, but the Terminates may stay in if he expects Klazam to go to the creature part of the sideboard.
Yeah, but what creatures is he bringing in? PM Karen dies to lightning bolt, Tireless Tracker dies to lightning bolt more often than not, Huntmaster of the Fells dies to lightning bolt. The only creature he's concerned about that won't die to lightning bolt is Inferno Titan.
Obstinate Baloth. Obstinate Baloth is probably coming in with
True.
Kolaghan's commands in Yaw's deck.
That's true. Yaw's mode 2 Vendilion clicks 2 Boom Busts into his library, and a Goblin Dark Dwellers, and a Negate, and a Dispel, and a second Dispel. Wow, that's a lot of cards to move in. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he's taking out 8 cards. Klazam, on the other hand, has currently moved in Obstinate Baloth and 2 Dispels. Yaw's moved 1, 2. Is he gonna move all his things in the ice out of the deck? Really? Oh.
I guess he just wants more disruption as opposed to...
Yep, all 3 things in the ices are gone. As we expected, Klazam's moving Inferno Titan and Tireless Tracker into his deck. Klazam's taking out all his repeals.
Yeah, they probably weren't doing all that much. The one that took care of a Thopter was valuable, but for the most part, Yaw wants to see his creatures go back.
Yaw's moving Liliana Last Hope, 1 Terminate to sideboard. Klazam's taking out 1 Gifts. Yaw moves the second Terminate as expected to sideboard. And Yaw's removing a Spell Snare.
Yeah, those don't do much of anything in this matchup. They stop Remands, and that's about it. Sakura Tribe, I guess.
Yes. They stop, is it Charm? They stop Repeal. No, don't stop reveal, stop remain, not reveal. That's what I was thinking. Uh, yeah. Beyond that, nothing else.
Yeah, it looks like they're all done.
It's not. Yeah, it's
Klazam
not
took out
Snapcaster.
the Charms as well as one of his gifts.
It's not Snapcaster Tuesday, I think.
Oh, that's true. All right, based on what we've seen from sideboarding, how do you think this changes?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, it means that Kozam's going to be less reliant on his scape shift to win, which is going to put him in a bit more of a balanced position. That said, I don't entirely know what I'm feeling about y'all's choices. I mean, most of them are what I expected. The only thing that he can't deal with is one copy of Inferno Titan, and that made it never be seen for Kozam. The other thing is that if Kozam's casting Inferno Titan, I mean, that's 6 mana, and it can get countered pretty easily, not only, and if you have extra mana to prevent mana leak from countering that, you're probably already within Scape Shift winning range as well. So, I just don't know what he expects Inferno Titan to be able to do. I mean, I agree it's a good choice to bring in because it provides an extra win condition threat, but not entirely sure what he expects it's going to end up doing.
I guess
Uh,
he's expecting it to dodge the non-creature counterspells.
I mean, but he knows Kozan plays 4 copies of Mana Leak. Yaw plays 4 copies of Mana Leak. He knows he plays a copy of Logic Knot. He knows he plays a copy of Cryptic Command. I mean, I don't know.
I guess he just wants one more threat.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But
All right, but it looks like they're all done, so I think we're going to head back down to the game.
all right, so game 2.
All right, looking at hands, Klazam has a lot of ramp, and besides that, a lightning bolt.
Yeah, this is a good hand for This is a good hand for Escape Shift if he draws it, but poor if he really wants to keep you off the board. That one lightning bolt won't be doing too much work.
No,
Gonna get rid of one thing maybe, but
I guess he just assumes he's going to find one of his cards that matters soon enough.
yeah. I mean, he's not drawing that much, but on the other hand, Yaw finally has all the lands he could ever want. He has Serum Visions to find some threats, he has a Thought Scour to help him get some recursion, and he has another Ancestral Vision on turn 1. Based on these opening hands, I think Yaw is significantly favored. I really do.
Yeah, he can find plenty of threats, plenty of answers, and Klazam needs to hope, essentially.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we're going to see a turn 1 suspended Search for Tomorrow to get that going. Going to save some life by just getting a forest. Another Thought Scour here for Yaw.
That's going to be useful. He's going to take the 2 damage from defense and put it in Ancestral Vision. And I think that might actually just tilt Klazam.
Well, he's got 4 turns before it shows up, but Yaw's got 2 Thought Scours and a Serum Visions here. He's going to be digging a lot of the way through his deck.
Here comes Klazam. He draws a Stevens at the top, another land. I mean, on one hand, he's getting lands down pretty well, pretty good. On the other hand, he's not finding any action yet. I mean, not that he needs too much just yet, but he'll be able to cast a Sakura Tribal this turn, but more lands. And there's an island found from a Floodstrand. Basics.
Well, he'll be able to get 2 more lands out of his deck by his next draw step by sacking the Sakura Tribe Elder, and the Search for Tomorrow is going to resolve.
Yep.
Dark Dwellers is going to be a very large threat.
He's going to use Sunken Runes to get blue. Thought Scour targeting Yaw. Put 2 cards on top of the deck and then draw a card. He mills and mills 2 lands and then yeah, wow, that's really good for him.
Yeah, even though he drew another land off of that, it's going to let this Serum Visions be really good for him.
I mean, what's more important is that he got all the lands in hand he ever would need.
Yeah, he can just bottom every land he finds from here on out. And
he's found Goblin Dark Dwellers, which is going to be very hard for for Klazam to deal with.
Can't get tilted.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, 4 is the magic health number. Doesn't die to Lightning Bolt, doesn't die to Illicit Charm, doesn't die to basically anything in Klazam's deck.
Yeah, he has to hope it doesn't get Cryptic commanded, but I don't see any.
Draw side 2 to the bottom, we're going to assume that those are both lands.
That seems pretty likely. Because he wants most of his cards right now that actually do something. Klazam finding another island off the Search for Tomorrow, so now he has triple.
And he found a Snapcaster Mage off of his draw. I mean, that's decent because he can Volt Snapcaster Bolt. And that might be able to deal with the Goblin Dark Dwellers, but there's a question of whether he'll be bolting another threat before that comes out. Draws another land. Wow. I'm gonna play out an island. Y'all's in danger of flooding out. And you also have pass turn.
While he is in danger of flooding out, he does have the Goblin Dark Dwellers to flash back a Serum Visions or something to try to fix his draws a little bit later.
And Klazam's top deck was a Misty Rainforest. Y'all lost a Lightning Bolt and a Colin's command, which is not ideal, but. And he drew a Serum Visions, and another Serum Visions on his turn. He may be concerned that his opponent is going to kill him with Scapeshift, but we know that Sam doesn't have Scapeshift in hand.
Yeah, but He's likely going to try to hold up Mana Leak to try to scare him off a little bit, although he has plenty of mana for it anyway, I guess.
I mean, not right now. No, he only has 5 mana on board, and Valakut for 6. So yeah, the 7th mana going down would prevent that. Yaw Scryed 2 on top, which is interesting. He'll play a 4th land here,
Is
try and
there
cut it.
is there thought here to just continuing to play out all your Serum Visions, and
Oh yeah, absolutely.
if you're
He's
dead
looking.
anyway, you might as well make them have it and try to get as far through your deck as you can.
Well, at this point, you have no counter spells in hand regardless, and you know that he's going to be able to have enough mana to not be worried about mana leak. So beyond that, I don't think any of your counter spells are really going to hit him because you obviously can't cast Cryptic once you've already cast the first one. So he's just looking to. Oh wow! So Dispel won't deal with Scape Shift, but if Klazam draws gifts and uses that to try and find something, Klazam draws any Steam Fence.
A lot of land from both players so far this game.
Yeah, and I think what we talked about happening is actually happening. Yaw and Klazam both had really good opening hands and are drawing into basically no gas. But Yaw's ability to filter his draws over Klazam's inability to be able to do anything is going to work very well here.
And here comes the Ancestral Vision, so
Oh
Yaw's going to
yeah.
completely refill.
And there's the boom bust. Oh my god. So here's the thing. He only has 5 mana this turn. But Klazam has no counter spells in hand. So if Klazam's hand draws another dead card.
Okay, there is an interesting line of play here that's a possibility where Yaw casts Boom on his turn and then flashes back Bust off of the Goblin Dark Dweller's next turn.
So here comes the Ancestral. Technically, Yaw missed the trigger because he drew for his turn, but it's not really. There's a Kalitas. Wow. That's the other thing about Kalitas. Kalitas also out of range of the burn, and Kalitas lifesteal is huge here.
Yeah, and that's another reason why Klazam may be wanting the Inferno Titan. It's a large threat that can deal damage that isn't just Scapeshift damage.
Is he just gonna destroy the Valakut? Is that okay? He's gonna. Oh, he's gonna get him off green.
Yeah, that'll keep him off double green for next turn since he doesn't have another source.
Wow. That's smart. And then he's gonna sack his Sculling Horn using holding priority. That's really, really smart.
Yeah, and that gives the possibility to flashback the Bust half with Dark Dwellers next turn, because split cards and casting without paying their mana cost like this works very well for Yaw.
Oh yeah. He's gonna have 3 mana as it is now, which is not enough to do a whole lot of anything.
Klazam really needs to find some action here. But without double green, it's going to be very difficult for him to find the ability to win before Yaw uh, casts the bust next turn.
I just don't think he can. No green hands, no skip shift in hand. I mean, that's actually a real issue. I mean, Klazam had the option to play out green mana. He has a Rainforest still in hand. He has a Stomping Ground in hand. So he had the option to play out more green mana and have enough green mana to draw Escape Shift here. He chose not to.
Yeah, that may have been a
Kazam's going to
mistake.
end the turn Lightning Bolt Yaw.
And then probably Snapcaster Bolt again to try to start getting some damage in here.
That seems reasonable. Yeah, that works just fine. I mean, I don't think Yaw's really concerned with his life right now.
Not if he plans to Dark Dwellers for bust next turn. Plus, with a Kalidas in hand, he can just start gaining the life back pretty quickly if he wants to.
I suspect that Creeping Tower Pit or Steam Vent is going to be discarded here. I would discard the Creeping Tower Pit here. I'm just going to discard the Swamp instead. It's a little slow, but that's fine.
And there's the Scape Shift.
But he can't cast.
He'll be able to cast it next turn, but he's not going to have the lands next turn, I don't think. If Yaw makes the play we expect him to.
Which means that boom bust was actually really huge for Yaw, because he would have been dead this turn with that draw.
Yeah, with Dispel as his only interaction, that wouldn't have been able to stop the Scape Shift.
Yaw has to just slam Dark Dwellers here, right?
Well, if he thinks he's going to be dead to Escape Shift soon, it's the best way to...
Sam has two cards in hand. If one of them is a counterspell, it's unlikely the other one is Escape Shift, and if it is, he's still off green mana.
Yep.
You just go for it here.
And with the Dispel, he can stop... he can even just play out the Steam Vents and then Dispel a Cryptic on Dark Dwellers if he wants to.
We'll see if Klazam doesn't. I mean, he has to here, but... I think Yaw is probably just thinking right now, what can my opponent possibly have? What can I put him on that loses me the game if I go for this? And honestly, it's very little, because even if the because it's going to be very difficult to counter the Goblin Dark Rollers themselves, but even if he's able to counter the Boom Bust, that's one card out of his hand, which means you're not dying to Escape Shift next turn unless he draws perfectly. That's...
Uh-oh.
It's going to be game. I don't understand that. Oh my god, yeah. Maybe he's.
I guess he's trying to get Klazam to be scared of counter magic here. He's still holding up 4 mana and has 6 cards in hand.
But there's no way Klazam takes that risk here. He's got no other chances. Right? I mean, Klazam has nothing else in hand. He has to go for it. Or maybe
Yeah,
he
yeah,
will.
absolutely.
I mean, maybe I think it would be stupid to wait, but maybe he does. No, he's going for it here.
He has
There's,
to.
and that should be the concession.
Yep, it is indeed. Is it possible that Yaw doesn't know the interaction here between split
I
cards?
actually would ask him about that.
You probably shouldn't ask him in the middle of the match.
I'm not going to ask him about the interaction. I'm going to ask him why he didn't play Dark Dweller and see what he says. Because I'm legitimately. You're probably right. I probably shouldn't ask anything. Ask him what he was thinking on start.
Yeah, we can discuss afterwards. All right.
I'm
So,
on the board. I'll be right back.
all right. So the players are moving to game 3 here. I don't really expect a change in sideboarding here. If this was good enough for game 2, it's probably good enough for game 3. Just the same way. Yeah, I don't see any cards that change value for Yaw or Klazam based on play draw, but maybe they see something I don't. Well, Klazam seems to be adding a few cards into his deck, possibly to just mask any sideboarding he may or may not be doing anyway to Yaw, because I don't see any value in the Shattering Spree or Creeping Corrosion. Yeah, he just seems to be hiding his sideboarding from Yaw by moving some cards in and out. Yeah, that was another interesting game with a lot of decisions that could have made a big difference in the outcome if they had gone differently. A lot of interaction and a lot of decision points in this matchup. It's been a very interesting one. Trying to decide what cards you want to represent, what cards you want to play around, what cards you can afford to play around. Looks like the players are keeping sideboards as is, just masking a bit by moving cards in and out. But game 2 shows the value of those sideboard cards that Yaw brought in. The Dark Dwellers is a big threat, and if he had actually cast it last turn holding up the Dispel to flash back the Boom Bust, it would have. It probably would have won Yaw the game. I'm not sure how Klazam comes back from all his lands getting destroyed. And those are 2 sideboard cards as well as their interaction. But what we also saw that game was a lot of flooding out early from both players. Yaw drew a lot of cards, but they turned out to mostly be threats as opposed to answers. And if you're drawing threats, sometimes you have to decide whether you want to represent answers, whether you want to just play out those threats and try to win as quickly as possible and hope your opponent doesn't have it. And Klazam, we didn't see his sideboard cards there, but in the right situation, it's pretty likely that they make a big difference as well between Obstinate Baloth if he gets hit by a Kolaghan's Command, a 4/4 that gains Klazam 4 life is probably very important in the matchup, especially if it's a surprise. Plus, the Inferno Titan is another large threat. Hits for big chunks of damage. And Yaw doesn't have that many ways to answer it. He can counter it as it comes down, but otherwise, he's taken out the Terminates. I'm not sure that he has another way to deal with that Inferno Titan here. Plus negate and dispel for just more interaction, which is very valuable in the combo versus control matchup. Alright, we're going to take a short break while we wait for LLD to come back, and then we'll be there for Game 3. Hello and welcome back. Sorry about that. We had some minor technical difficulties, but it looks like everybody's ready and we can go down to Game 3, so let's do that.
While I was gone, did they make any sideboard changes, or?
All they did was some moving the same cards in and out to mask a little bit, but it looks like they're still the same as they were.
I see.
So what we have seen in the first two games is a lot of interaction and a lot of decision points, and I don't expect that to change for Game 3 here. Yaw has a very solid hand here with a Serum Visions, a Mana Leak, a Snapcaster Mage, and a Kalitas along with 3 lands. It's a lot of solid interaction and just making sure he finds the cards that he wants early. Klazam's hand doesn't do all that much. He's kept it, but it's a Lightning Bolt, Escape Shift, and Inferno Titan, and 4 lands.
Isn't that just actually an ideal hand? I mean, the Inferno type, but like, isn't the rest of this ideal? Early interaction, found escape shift, and he has 2 green.
It's pretty good. He does need to get to 7, so he has to find Sakura Tribe Elders or Search for Tomorrows, and I'd probably prefer one of those over Inferno Titan, but it's probably better than a random 6 at least.
Alright, so Yeltsin's okay. I mean, he's gonna get the turn 1 Serum Visions, which is nice. No Ancestral Visions this time, but shouldn't be too bad.
No, the
Yeah,
Serum Visions will find cards that he needs.
Mm-hmm. You're looking to go 17 on your Shockland, probably a. Given his hand, probably a Steam Vents. In fact, it is Steam Vents. You can cast that. And cast Serum Visions. He drew a second Snapcaster off the Serum. He's now going to go to Scry.
That Snapcaster is probably going to be pretty valuable. On 3, he can Snapcaster Serum Visions if he wants, depending on what's there.
He also scried one on top, one on bottom. Actually, see. He scried a Mana Leak on top. So, I mean, with 2 Mana Leaks in hand and 2 Snapcasters, it looks like Yaw's going for a controlling game here. He's seen that for the most part he can handle something that isn't Scape Shift. And I mean, so I guess he's just looking to be able to counter Escape Shift and probably Inferno Titan, same thing.
Yep. Klazam draws a Dispel, though, which, if he goes for Escape Shift plan, Yaw's going to need a couple counter spells there.
Sure, which he has.
Yes. Yaw just passes to hold up Mana Leak. Is there any consideration to Mana Leaking a Sakura Tribe Elder here? Or do you just let him ramp all he wants?
You just let him ramp. There's not a whole lot that you can do about it. He's going to get there eventually, and you want to save your counter spells for things that actually lose you the game as opposed to, trying to tempo out. Tempo counter spells is just not the thing that's done. Like, at least not in this deck. This is not a particularly aggressive deck. But the Goblin Dark Dweller off the top. He has 3 lands. I mean, he hasn't drawn any more lands yet. And I think the best play here is just Snapcaster a Serum Visions.
Yeah,
I think
that lets you rebuild your hand a little more, sculpt your next couple draws, and on 3 mana, there's not really going to be anything you're going to want to Mana Leak.
And it looks like with him sacking the skull in turn, he's probably going to go find, jeez, I don't know, probably Basic Island. And then he'll probably Snapcaster and Serum Vision.
Yeah, he'll probably be looking at the Dark Dwellers in his hand and thinking about whether he wants to actually shock here and get another Steam Vents.
It would lower the amount of lands needed for Escape Shift victory by 1, but frankly, you're not really concerned about that. Steam Vents. Is he going to take the 2 damage? He does. And he's going to do exactly what we said. He's going to Snapcaster and Serum. That's going to put a threat on board against Klazam, which is good. And he's going to be able to find some more lands to be able to get that Goblin Dark Dweller.
Dark Dwellers or Kalidas, which can let him start gaining back life.
Draw is a lightning bolt, so reasonable. What is interesting is that both Kalidas and Goblin Dark Dwellers are able to trade into Inferno Titan with Lightning Bolt.
Very true.
I don't foresee that happening. I think Escape Shift is just the plan here, but if it comes to it, then he doesn't have to necessarily counter the Inferno Titan. He does have other answers. Y'all scribe 2 on top, 0 on bottom. Let's see what he presents. He put a spire bluff canal and a Vidillion click on top. The spire bluff on top first.
Okay, just continuing to get lands, even ones that come into play tapped.
Basically, yeah. Attacking for two. Play his land. What this does mean is that he can't cast Kalidas this turn, which is unfortunate. But if he doesn't, and we know he's not drawing a land next turn, so his plan is probably to play Kalidas next turn. I mean, the thing about Kalidas is that, like, he's not in danger of being scape shifted out of the game next turn or the turn after, because it's going to go to 4 and it's going to go to 5, but that's still only 12 damage. So, and then every Kalidas hit raises the scape shift land number necessary to kill him by 1.
Right, but we do see a cryptic command in Klazam's hand here, which he'll likely want to answer the Kalidas with.
There's a tireless tracker. He's going to play that. That's a mistake. That's a mistake, I think.
With 2 mana leaks in hand, Yaw definitely has a decision here.
I mean, if you're really not concerned about it, you can always lightning bolt it.
Exactly.
You save the mana leaks for the things that kill you. Always, always, always. What's really interesting is that Vendilion Click is going to be able to get rid of Scape Shift. Really? That, I don't know if I agree with that, but
He does have a 2nd mana leak as well as a Snapcaster, so he sort of still has 2 mana leaks available.
that's true. And he's going to use his excess mana to lightning bolt face. I think that's a smart play. He understands what has to happen now.
Yeah.
I think you play Kalitas next turn. I don't think you bother with Vendilion. Vendilion's a good card, but I think you wait.
Well, you don't have any way to use that extra mana if you play Vendilion Click, and if you play Kalidas, you can start gaining the life back and make it harder and harder for him to scape shift you out of the game.
Plus, Kalitas means that if he ever removes your Snapcaster, you just get another zombie.
Yeah. I think you want to use all your mana while your opponent's tapped out here on a threat that starts pulling you very far ahead.
I'll be very surprised if we see a Vendilion Click here. He has to know that you can't be killed. Oh my god, this is such
It's very conservative. It's very disruptive.
conservative. This is madness. Sure, put the 3/1 flyer out, but you're still dead to another scape shift if he draws it. I don't know. I just don't know if I feel this is.
I mean, Vendilion Click's answered by Lightning Bolt, Kalidas isn't, and starts just gaining you life back to pull you out of scape shift range. Vendilion Click can take away a scape shift, but he can just draw another one. Kalidas eventually gets you to a point where you can no longer be scape shifted.
What is interesting now is that he knows that his opponent has Dispel, Cryptic Command, and Snapcaster, which means that most of his counterspell lines are going to be a little bit dead. That means that, I mean, you have to take. Look, you're already on this line. You have to get. Really? That's a miss. Oh, God, why?
I guess he thinks the Titan is the biggest threat, but with 2 mana leaks in hand, when that's gonna happen, like you can't play Inferno Titan and hold up a Dispel the way you can with Scapeshift.
I gotta say, the previous games I casted were played extremely well, and with the exception of the first boom play that Yaw made to be able to correctly read that he was one turn away from dead, uh, there's been a lot of just questionable plays during this series. Um,
It is an interesting matchup, and we've mentioned that there are a lot of possible decisions that can be made here, a lot of tiny tiny things that can change a lot, and I think there's also a lot to say about.
here's the deal. I understand wanting to play around counterspells. Here's the issue. You can only do so much. If you play too conservatively, if you play too much into the things that are had, then you're going to end up in a situation where you cannot win. And I think we're very close to that situation here. Because, on one hand, Klazam didn't draw another land. So that is interesting.
Yeah, but what are you playing here? Thought Scour to try to get a land so you can play Kalidas into a counterspell? Attack with your 5 mana into a lightning bolt and snap.
If he lightning bolts you, if he lightning bolts something, you know he can't counter you. You attack, and if he lightning bolts either of your creatures, you know he can't counter you.
True. And I guess you're just trying to add too many threats to the board here to.
That's the concept, yeah. He's considering using his cryptic command before combat to save himself 5 health. Tap down those creatures and potentially draw a card, and he's going to do exactly that. I think that might be a mistake. Alright, so I assume this is going to be.
Do you care about counter?
No, you don't care. You don't give a fuck. You play Kalidas.
I think that's the case too. Just keep adding more threats to the board, and you can counter later.
No, Mike. Oh my god, I'm so sick of him countering things that don't matter.
Well, let's take a look here. Klazam is at 7.
So what? You know he has a lightning bolt in hand. And you know he has a Snapcaster in hand. If he ever really feels like it, lightning bolt, Snapcaster, lightning bolt clears your board. And then what? What do you do at that point?
It's a really good question.
You know he has 2 cryptics too. You saw 2 cryptic commands in hand. If he's gonna blow his entire ability to stop your Kalidas, something he cannot remove, and here it comes: lightning bolt, cryptic, lightning bolt, Snapcaster, lightning bolt.
Yep, and Yaw's out of counterspells at this point.
This has been exceedingly poorly played by Yaw.
He saw all of these cards, right?
Yeah, every one of them. He had them all written down. He took the time to write them down. At the end of his turn, he's gonna thought scour himself. Losing a fatal push and a boom bust.
Well, with a land here,
land off the top. He can do it.
he can.
It's tapped out. He could just do it if he knows the interaction, and he knows there's nothing there. So now we'll get to see if he knows how the interaction works or not. We're gonna see it.
There it
There
is.
it is. There it is. There we go.
And that makes me wonder why he didn't just do this in game 2.
Same. I have no clue.
But he does it here, and that probably is going to put him so far ahead. Yep, looks like Klazam is scooping here.
Yeah. Well, the game. Yep, because I don't think he has any real way to come back after that. He's already used his lightning bolt.
Yep.
I don't think Kazan can complain about never drawing land. I mean, I alright see that in game 2, but
I mean, he did what he could, and he tried to take advantage of what we feel were some over conservative plays, but without the lands, eventually your opponent's just going to be able to kill you anyway.
yeah. I also just think that I don't know. I think that Kazan didn't. I don't know. I don't know if.
But that's going to put Yaw to 2-0 and Klazam
Down
to
to
2-1.
2-1. Yep. I think I don't know if Kazan played this matchup particularly well. Game 3, he couldn't have done anything else. I don't know if I would have crypticed. I don't know if I would have done a cryptic at that point. I would have tried to end of turn gifts, and if that draws a counterspell, sure.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of conservative play from both players in this, where they were trying to figure out how not to lose, and at some point you have to try to win.
Well, that's my thing. Both players had
Anyway, do we have any more thoughts on that matchup in general? There was a lot going on there.
um. I think both players made huge errors. I think in game 1 and game 2 we saw it. Escape shift on game 1 should have just been played. I think both players had the same issue. They played too conservatively.
Yeah, there was a lot of worrying too much about what your opponent is doing, it seems like. And sometimes you have to, particularly if you're a combo deck like Scapeshift, sometimes you have to just play it, and they can't answer every single one of them.
Yeah. I I don't know because I think that here's the thing, because Am can say all he wants about how this was a quote unquote near unwinnable matchup and quote unquote he's fine with the result, but I mean the fact of the matter is that if he makes the correct play in game 1, he wins the series. So I I don't particularly accept that he played the best he could and he was just in the unwinnable matchup. He made significant misplays.
Yeah, there was a lot of conservative play, and a lot of things could have been done very differently in
Now, I'm not
tournaments.
saying that I wouldn't have made those misplays as well, but I just think that, like, given the situation, and I was trying my hardest to think without full information, given the situations you just had to go for these things. I mean,
When all you have in hand is escape shift, sometimes you just cast the escape shift. You can always try to draw another one.
exactly. I mean, that's the thing. If you draw them out of removal of counter spells by casting it, you're not dead immediately on board. You do have removal spells. I mean, like that's the thing. I just don't think that either player really gave respect to their win conditions. That's the thing. Like in Magic the Gathering, as far as I can tell, it's important to think about what your opponent's trying to do, but it's important to think about your own win condition as well. And at some point, you have to understand that you can only do so much until the point where your own win condition is being played against if you play around too much.
Yep, and
And
that's
we saw that in game two, where he was overly concerned about losing a race between a 2-2 and a 4-4. I mean, if you're really that concerned about losing the race between the 2-2 and the 4-4, you know what you do? You hold your 4-4 back and you block with it.
yeah. When your opponent doesn't have any lands,
And their
you can.
escape shift deck.
Yep.
Your draws are more live than theirs every time. I just don't understand that. Just the decision. And in game one, I mean, sure, you had just seen mana leak out of him to mana leak, I believe, your gifts. I believe it was gifts ungiven was leaked, and now you're thinking, okay, I untap. It's my turn now. What do I do? He has 2 mana open, and if he mana leaks me in here, I won't have the mana to spend both escape shift and to pay for mana leak. The issue is that it doesn't matter if you don't escape shift that turn, you're not winning. Your opponent has too many things that just kill you. And as we saw, where Klazam had the upper hand all game one, Yaw pulled out enough burn to just kill him.
Yep.
And I think that was a loss condition Klazam did not consider, and a win condition that he ignored. He really needed to know. He really needed to correctly identify his win conditions versus loss conditions. I don't know. I think that a lot more could have been done on both sides to optimize their play in this matchup. I mean, congratulations to Yaw for winning. I mean, in any matchup, if you've won, you've done something right, and clearly he did. He made correct decisions at certain points, especially in game three. I mean, he was able to thought scour and get the perfect thought scour to be able to go in Dark Lord with it. I don't agree with the rest of his decisions that game, but sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you just get exactly what you need.
Yep. It's always a tough line, particularly in a matchup with as much interaction as that one has, and there's a lot you can learn from it, a lot of decisions you have to make, a lot of ways you can think about how to do it differently, and I think there's going to be a lot of that.
I understand his choice to Vendilion click. Like, I get it. Like, he wants to get the click in while his opponent is tapped out and he can't be countered, so he can try to get rid of something that's going to come down and kill him. I don't know if I agree entirely with the decision to click the Inferno Titan. I'm not entirely sure I agree with the decision to play click at all. I think you just should have put out the thing that puts your clock at better time and just relied on your counterspells in hand. And don't counterspell worthless spells. Don't counterspell a cryptic command that's only saving 5 health and drawing a card. That's literally you spent a mana leak to counter a fog that draws a card. That's just not an efficient use of your counterspell. You know?
Yep. But we've discussed a lot of those decisions, and I'm sure there'll be more to discuss in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably enough to be said about that.
Yep.
Anyway.
Lots of things to think about for both players and anyone watching. But thanks to everyone for watching this match, and we'll see you again for more in the future. Anything else, LLD?
Yeah, I mean, just thank you to both players for playing a full game. Both playing competitively. Doing what they thought was best. Thanks to everyone who helped set this up again. I mean, this is a lot to do, and a lot of stuff is required, and a lot of planning is required. So thank you to everyone for that. And beyond that, Klaz is done with his decks. We won't see any more of that, so he'll be looking to set up his new deck for next trimester. Y'all will have one more game, and I don't know who y'all's next game is against. Can you
He
check?
plays against me still.
I see. So that'll be an interesting matchup as well.
Absolutely. So for LLD, I'm Hascow. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you later.